The opinions expressed on the following audio program are solely those of the host and the guests. Burner Podcast is an independently produced, not-for-profit show and is not associated with the Burning Man organization or its subsidiaries. The views expressed are not representative of the entire Burning Man community and are presented here for entertainment purposes only. In short, calm the fuck down. It's just a podcast.
And it's episode number 53, and it is 194 days till the man burns as of this recording. Good Lord, it flies fast and past time, that is. And we're only like 3 weeks into the Trump presidency, and it feels like the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket. And here I am mostly thinking about how happy I am that I don't have to worry about a goddamn Valentine's Day. My ex was like really into it, and I found myself becoming more passive aggressive about it like every year we were together. So fuck you, heart-shaped chocolate candy box explosion bullshit Hallmark holiday things. Okay, now that that's off my chest, I'm excited to be heading out to Saguaro Man this year. Saguaro Man is the Arizona regional burn, and that's on the weekend of April 26th of 2017, of course, because that is the year that we are in. Our associate producer, Tori Massey, is heading out to Africa Burn, and that's over in South Africa. Executive producer Meg has always said that it's kind of like Utopia, but with monkeys. I don't know if she's making that up, but Tori is going to get back with a full report on what it's like out there, and I am hoping to see some pictures of monkeys. That would be really wonderful. And that's going to be a fun episode too. It's going to be her and her boyfriend Will and a crew of other people going out. So we'll get like a whole experience of what it's like out there in South Africa. We may or may not be hitting Bequinox. That is the LA regional burn. That is also coming up very quickly. And Ramiro, Burner Podcast's online editor and chief playa scientist, will be at the GLC this year. He's been selected. It's the Global Leadership Conference in San Francisco, held by Burning Man. If you don't understand what the fuck all of what I just said means, well, then you should probably check out episode number 32 of this very show, where I interviewed Iris Yee over at Burning Man headquarters. The episode is entitled Regional Network 101. Actually got to go out there to Burning Man HQ, and it was a really great experience. I've talked about it a couple of times on the show. Check out that episode, get to know about the regionals and all the other non-actual Burning Man at Gerlach events that are happening around the world. You don't have to be here in Nevada in order to get the experience. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. If you're listening to this show, you already know all that bullshit. So the point is, everywhere you turn, someone from the Burner Podcast crew will be there. At this very minute, someone from our staff is probably watching you. And we know that you touch yourself at night. And we're not going to dwell on that too much, on your private habits, you dirty hippie perverts. Let's move on to today's show. It's a camp profile episode. We haven't done one of those in a little while. This is where like the horn sound effects would play if we had a budget or, I don't know, production value. The Mystical Misfits, predominantly based out of the LA region, have been destined to be on this show since we started this whole train wreck. If you're a regular listener to the show, you've probably heard members of this camp referenced on multiple occasions on one of my many, sometimes often alcohol-induced side rants during interviews. That is because I've had some wonderful adventures with these awesome people. The second day of my first Utopia was where I crossed paths with the Misfits for the first time ever, by way of my dear friends Mark and Lana. Mark and Lana were camped next to me at Utopia, the San Diego regional burn that we never shut the fuck up about on the show. And it was through them that I got to meet more members of this extended family. Their production value on Playa is always just beyond fucking impressive. To some extent, due to the fact that there is a large film industry presence amongst their campmates. We'll be talking about some of the amazing shit that they've done at Black Rock City and get into some of their history. The Mystical Misfits is the first camp profile that we've done on this show where we don't have at least like one founding member sitting in on the interview. And that is due to the fact that the camp at this point has been around long enough to spawn multiple generations of burners. They've bared fruits in children. They're like old in like a really super great way. Don't get me wrong. I love this camp. Anyway, we're going to break all of that down. You're going to hear all about that. For this interview, I am joined by Ian, Jessica Rabbit, Kim Bergens, to whom, by the way, I'd like to thank for arranging this whole mess that you're about to hear. I'm very excited about today's show. I've been waiting to do it for a very long time, and finally we got to make it happen, and it was a lot of fun. Had a really great experience. So without further ado, today's episode is entitled Mystical Misfits. I go by Mr. Arash, even though nobody calls me Mr. Welcome to Burner Podcast.
On the first part of the journey, I was looking at all the life. There were plants and birds and rocks and things. There was sand and hills and rain. The first thing I met was a fly with the balls and the sky with no clouds. The heat was hot and the ground was dry, but the air was full of sound. I've been through the desert on a horse with no name, and it felt good to be out of the rain. In the desert, you can't remember your name, 'cause there ain't no one for to give you no name.
Wireless headphones and silent disco stuff, and they just held their own like 15-person silent disco on top of a cliff overlooking the whole city.
We never have any fun ideas.
I know.
That sounds really boring.
It's so boring.
Yeah.
It's really a shame. I know. This
But
whole thing.
I put in an application to Griffith Park to host one at the helicopter pad,
Nice.
like a sunrise silent disco.
Is that where we hiked up to that one time
Yeah.
for the moonrise
Yep.
party or something? Yeah.
I've never done a silent disco. So how, do you have like a whole bunch of headphones that you pass out to people?
Yeah, a friend of ours runs a company that rents those, and so you just figure out how many people are showing up, and then you have...
Wait, so this is a thing that happens enough that a company exists
Oh,
that
yeah.
rents out
It's a thing.
headphones
Yeah.
for you to... Okay.
You know what it's from? It's from old people being like, those kids
Yeah.
with their darn loud dance music. They're like, fine. But what's really fun, actually, my favorite thing about Silent Disco is we started this game, I think it was at LIB. Were you there for Silent Disco Shark?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you, Michaela was there.
Yeah, dude.
So the best thing about walking into a silent disco and not having headphones on is that you are now a shark. A sea of people who cannot hear you coming.
Okay.
So we would do shark dance attacks on people and just na, 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 and then jump right in front of them and start boogieing. Yeah.
It works better when you look like her.
Right.
Yes.
But it was great
That's how I would
because
get like pepper sprayed.
we started doing it, and then we saw Michaela start to like teach people the game, and
Yeah.
they would take their headphones off and like start doing it, and so we just gave birth to this fleet of sharks.
How many headphones do you rent for a silent disco?
I mean, it depends on how many people show up, but
Yeah.
you know, for what I'm doing at Griffith Park, I'm gonna put in an order for 100, and if I sell more than 100 tickets, then I'll get more. But it's like you can rent 100 for like a couple $100.
Yeah,
Okay,
you can
wow.
scale it based on the size of your event.
Do they disinfect the headphones?
I don't ask questions.
I think so. That's a good
I mean,
question.
I would hope so after I wear them, but
Right.
I feel like I would hate for that reputation to exist. That like, oh, you know, that person went to the silent disco. They got that weird ear rash that everybody has.
It's the new epidemic in the
Yeah, the
community.
new epidemic of ear rashes of people who are silent discos. All right, so let's do this. I want to go around real quick. I want you guys to introduce yourselves so that the listeners can associate a name with the voice. And let's say how many years you've been involved with the Misfits. So we'll start here.
All right. My name is Ian Shore, playa name Panda. I've been going to Burning Man for 14 years and been with the Misfits since 2010.
My name is Jessica Rothert, aka Jessica Rabbit, and I've been going to Burning Man since 2011, and I've been with the Misfits since 2011.
I'm Kim Perkins. No playa name has stuck so far.
Goals for this year.
Goals. Well, we'll see what sticks. I think they don't always stick. The ones you like don't always stick. But I've been camping with the Misfits since 2012, which was my first year at the Burn.
Wait, hold on. You get playa name with the one that you like or other people like?
I think it's the one other people
Yeah, I
like.
think so too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, certain ones just, even if you don't like it, if enough people call you it's too late. It snowballs.
Yeah. My most favorite one that recently happened was Benj gave our friend Elise the playa name I'm Loud. It's great because she is. Yeah. But when someone sees her on playa, then they're just going, "Hey, I'm loud!"
I have a friend who recently got named Legend. So she just said, "I am Legend." That's what she gives herself. That's fucking great.
That's fantastic.
So let me see. 2011, 2012, 14 years.
Yeah,
that's a chunk of time.
Yeah, my first.
Is there like 200 people at Burning Man?
Back in my day.
How many times has the Burn been ruined since you've been going?
It's a different thing that's going to ruin it every time. Like I remember my first year was 2002.
I was about to do math right now. Like, wait, 14 years. Wait,
it was the
artist can't do math.
Yeah, it was the floating world year, and I think back then the things that were going to ruin Burning Man were people were complaining that there was less art than usual.
Yeah.
There was
sorry, stop you real quick. We forgot to tell Phil to turn off the fish tank.
Oh, we should do that.
Oh yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay, pause. We'll pause it.
Yeah, so
we're just going to continue recording. Yeah. we're going to turn off that fish tank sound in the background. That's
here comes Phil.
There he is. All right.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
Podcast away.
I'm going to take this as a cue to turn my phone off also.
That's a good idea.
Oh, I usually leave it on. It's quite all right. There's a lot of weird background noises. People will yell things in the background. It's totally okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You were saying people were complaining about art?
Yes, 2002, it was, like, when I look back at pictures on the year, it was just a shockingly empty city. Like, I maybe saw 15 art cars the entire week.
Yeah.
So, over that time, first it was, a lack of art and the fact that you were no longer allowed to bring fireworks out there. That was going to ruin it. And then for a while, dubstep was going to ruin it. And then, so, it's gone through a few phases.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Phil, the fish aren't going to die, right?
Nope.
If we're turning off the fish tank.
No, I don't care about your fish.
We just have to remember to turn it back on.
Okay.
Right. They were all dead when we came back from Burning Man one time.
Oh,
That's
really?
another story.
Oh, that's so sad.
Apocalypse, yes. The first
Fishpocalypse.
apocalypse of 2012.
What was the first thing that took you to Burning Man? What were you doing? What was happening in your life before 2014?
Sorry, you mean before I went for the first time?
Yeah, like how did you discover it? How did it come into your life?
Well, I've been wanting to go since I was a teenager. I was living in Utah, and one of the first jobs I had was answering the phone at Planned Parenthood, and I was the guy who would set up a booth and give out condoms at events. Yeah. And my boss was telling me, he was like, "Oh, you know what? You should set up a booth at Burning Man." I was like, "What is that?" And she's like, "Oh, it's a big party in the desert where everybody gets naked and takes drugs and has sex." And I'm like,
Yeah.
Can I go now? So I back then they were still selling tickets at brick and mortar venues where you could order them out of a magazine.
Yeah.
So I became obsessed with this idea of what this could be, but didn't make it till I was 19.
Yeah. Well, that's still okay. Sorry, possible. Okay.
I'm wonderful, thank you. No, I'm happy with my water.
Okay.
Not the lights, so we can have it.
Mood lighting. Okay.
Yes.
So, 19. Were there a lot of 19-year-olds on Playa?
No. And I've been going to raves, and because I was growing up in Utah, I was always seeking out things that were weird or somehow made it feel like I was escaping my regular life.
Yeah. Because Utah.
Yeah, because Utah. But I was unprepared for like the level of weirdness that I experienced like within my first 24 hours out there.
Yeah.
Like I think my greeter, his big piece of advice to me when I came to the gates, he's like, all right, if you're going to drink water. If you're going to do drugs, drink water. If you're going to have sex in the dark in the middle of the playa, you put a glow stick in your ass so you don't get run over.
Sage wisdom.
I mean, assuming the position is that you're on top, of course. If you're in the other direction, nobody's going to stay close.
So, someone's going to have a glow stick. Someone's going to have a glow stick in their ass. That's the moral of the story.
You've had a good weekend. If you come back with a weird ear rash and a glowing coming out of your ass. So that was what year? I'm sorry, Ian?
2002.
2002. Kim, where were you in 2002?
2002? Oh my God. I had actually just moved to California to become a pro inline speed skater.
Hold on. From where? From where?
I'd moved from New York City.
Okay. And
I had a 1-month gig out here. It has been how many years now? And I never left. I never went back to New York after that 1 month gig.
So there's a big inline speed skating scene in LA?
It actually was in Berkeley.
Okay.
And I was up there to train with the guy who was like one of the more famous guys doing this.
Yeah.
And
of course, Berkeley. Yes.
obviously, Berkeley.
That's obviously where the inline speed skating.
Yeah, well, we had this great training group that went over the, Tunnel Road in Berkeley and all these huge, it's an amazing area for skating and biking and all these other things. And so the people who trained on this terrain ended up winning all the hill races. So I went out and trained with them, and I too won the hill races. Those are my trophies.
Oh, I thought those were dishes.
They're also trophies.
Yeah, okay. All right.
This is from the longest race in the world, which is 87 miles.
Oh, wow. Where was that?
It goes from Athens to Atlanta, Georgia.
Uh-huh.
And I won it 3 times, including 2002, which is the year that you just mentioned.
Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, not
Athens. Make it cut down.
Those are amazing skates.
amazing skates.
Let me see those.
So at that time you're in Berkeley. How long were you up in Berkeley?
I was in Berkeley until 2007 when I came here.
Okay, to LA.
To LA to start grad school. And people were always trying to get me to go to Burning Man up there because I know a lot of people. And I just did not think that I wanted to go out with a bunch of hippies and get naked in the desert for a week. It somehow did not sound like a good time. Later I discovered what a good time it is.
Yeah. What was your first? You said 2012 was your first year.
2012.
Okay, so it took all the way to 2012 for you to
Yes,
get
I had to
convinced.
come to LA, marry Phil, my husband, and he'd been to the Burn also around the same time as Ian did, around 2002.
Thought I recognized him.
And he said we should go to Burning Man, but if we do it this time, I want to join a camp. Mm-hmm. So since I'm the spreadsheet person of the family, I said, great, I will go find us a camp to join. And that is how I joined.
Yeah. And
Nice.
her and Phil showed up at my house one afternoon while I was painting. I think what eventually became the coverings for a nuclear bomb, a fake nuclear bomb that we built.
Okay, the fake is the important.
Yes, that's it.
Fake.
So the year that
this is a podcast hosted by a Middle Eastern guy. Let's be very clear.
well, and that was the funny part of it. So it was the year that the theme was cargo cult. And we wanted to build what looked like a deactivated nuclear bomb that it was just stuck in the playa and had been graffitied all over, and it said Salvation, and that was our bar. And we're sending emails back and forth as we're doing the fabrication and the plans. And we're like, it's probably not great, guys, how much we're talking about this bomb we're building. And then someone's like, well, let's give it a name. And someone named it Salvation. I was like, that's not much better, guys.
Yeah, why not name it, I don't know, Allah or something like that?
Guys.
That's wonderful. Let's set off as many keywords as we can.
Yeah. But it was great. I don't know if Tony came the same day as you guys did. But
Actually, we were the year before. We were with the Castle.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Castle year. That was 2012.
And
yeah, the Misfits tend to like to do a play on whatever the theme is. And I think 2012 was the year the theme was Fertility 2.0. And so the Misfits built Contraception Castle. And we gave out Misfit brand condoms at our happy hours.
We don't fit the theme, we misfit.
Yeah, people like at one point people would dress up like sperm and try to like storm our castle, and it was our job to prevent them from entering.
And so we had people dressed like Trojan warriors to fight the sperm off. That was the theme of one of our happy hours, was Trojans versus sperm. Yeah.
Perfect. What were you doing in the early 2000s, Jessica?
2002, I was still in college, actually. I was in the middle of Indiana, in Bloomington, Indiana, studying theater and English literature with a minor in modern dance at Indiana University. Because I wanted to make all of the money.
It's okay, as long as you weren't a philosophy professor, I guess you're all right.
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of theater. So, like laying groundwork for Misfit skills with a lot of scenic design classes and things like that.
Someday I will be in the desert.
One day I will use this skill. Yeah, building weird shit in the middle of the desert with my friends.
Had you heard of Burning Man at that time?
I hadn't heard of Burning Man at that time, but coincidentally enough, when I was there in the theater department, I had a friend named Tanaya who was from San Francisco originally. And so she was kind of the one who planted the seed in my head of Burning Man. But it wasn't until years later, as soon as I graduated college, I did a bunch of regional theater performing. So I was traveling all over the U.S. working with different regional theaters. And it was around about the time I was in Florida that I was tired of moving every 4 to 6 months. And I decided I wanted to move to Los Angeles. So I packed up everything I owned. And when I had made that decision, Tanaya messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm going to go to Burning Man this year. You should come since you're moving to California." And so knowing not a lot about the festival, I bought the ticket as soon as they went on sale. And on my way to LA, Tanaya called me and she said, "I got cast in this amazing one-woman show in San Francisco. It opens during Burning Man, so I can't go." And so I then had no one to go with, but I was like, you know what? I always figure something out. I'm sure I'll figure out a way to go. And my cousin had gone to college with this girl, Mary, who was associated with the Misfits. And I became friends with her on Facebook, and I was like, "So I notice you have a lot of Burning Man pictures. Do you know people I could go with?" And she said, "Yeah, there's going to be a Misfits build day this weekend. You should come and meet everybody and help build the camp for a day and see if it fits." And that was actually the day I met Ian, was at my first Misfits build day.
I remember.
But it was really great because I moved to Los Angeles in June of 2011, and within about 2 months I met the Misfits.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have that horrible kind of adjustment period moving to Los Angeles, because right away I met the Burning Man community and had this amazing network of friends. So I kind of lucked out.
Yeah, I remember that. Like within the course of 6 weeks, she went from the girl who showed up at a build day to, I think, within that same 6 weeks, she started living in my house for like probably 10 days. She was between places, so pretty much the entire camp adopted her.
Yeah, we had an Adopt Jessica Rabbit program, and they each would adopt me for a week at a time until I found my place to live. So I came after my first burn and started this rabbit adoption program. And I ended up staying with John Padone and his brother Braden, and they had a house in North Hollywood. And John actually was the head of our camp for several years. And so I had met him at the burn, and they said, "Hey, we're looking for another roommate. Do you want to move in with us?" So I ended up moving in there. So that became Misfit headquarters, because we had a big concrete backyard, and that's where we did a lot of the builds. But about 5 months into me living there, John was killed in a motorcycle accident. And it was a very intense time because was helping his family deal with all of the details of his death. But also we had already submitted the design for that year, which was the Contraception Castle. And John ran point on a lot of the camp, and those of us that remained were kind of never had run the camp before. And all looked at one another and said, "Are we going to do this thing?" And said, "Yeah." And we all kind of pulled our efforts. None of us had really experience doing a whole lot of leadership with the camp before. We were all kind of flying blind entirely that first year. But it was fueled by this immense labor of love of this was the last design that John did. And this was, he had so much love for this camp, and he put in so much of who he was. And there was this strong desire to do him proud and see if we could stand on our own legs and figure it out. And it was that, year was very intense. There was a lot of lessons learned, but that's something that I love about us is we have year after year learned so much from our mistakes, and we always kind of try to apply those lessons to the next year. Like, let's not make our lives harder again for another year in a row.
Yeah, John, it's interesting. I obviously had never met him. I discovered the community afterwards. But full disclosure for the listeners here, I got to know the Misfits through Mark and Lana. They were some of the first people that I met when I discovered the community as a whole. It was at Utopia, like the Saturday after a very unpleasant experience on a Friday night there. Having a very challenging time with mushrooms. So the next morning, I happened to meet Mark and Lana. I wasn't sure how the rest of the weekend was going to play out, but we ended up bonding, and they kind of led me through exploring a lot of this stuff. So there's always this. That was where the connection came from. And I started coming around, and I got to meet Braden, of course. And I always hear about John. He always sort of comes up, and there is this, there's very much this sense that his energy and his spirit is constantly present in everything that the Misfits do.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's accurate. And, there's so many ways that we were all forced to grow into these leadership positions that we assumed, because it was just out of necessity. It was, we have to figure this out, and we have to figure it out together. But it also formed these really, really intense bonds. And we always end up calling the core group that does a lot of the lifting within the camp, we call them the load-bearing misfits. Because that's kind of, I think, symptomatic of pretty much every theme camp. There's a core group that, does a lot of it, but you're doing it shoulder to shoulder. Ideally, it's a little bit lighter that way. But, there's so many experiences and so many trials that I would not have put myself up against and had it not been for John's passing. I mean, he brought so many wonderful people into my life and taught me a lot about what it means to be a leader.
Right.
Yeah, John was a total savant. He could essentially put the camp together himself. He understood how to build scaffolding. He knew how to run power for electricity. He could figure out gray water. He was just a one-man band.
Yeah. The problem with that then is you don't have
people
who have your knowledge.
Right, so when he has the temerity to go and die, the rest of us are okay, so I think maybe between the six of us, we might be able to do what John did by himself.
Yeah.
And even that took a couple years of growing pains.
Yeah. It was a running joke for a while that we would yell at John for not doing any work, especially the castle here, because it was his design. So we were like, let's build a castle, guys. And then he does none of the work. Castle. So whenever things got tough, we would just curse John for not being there.
Was John part of the founding class of the Misfits?
I don't think he was. When
were the Misfits sort of started?
The Misfits, I think, and unfortunately none of us here are OG Misfits.
Which, by the way,
it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
I think it has a 10+ year history.
Yeah.
And I know that Dan Hickey and Dana and Aaron and Gail Mosley, who else? Pete, Dimples, those were all kind of some of the founding OG people.
Yeah, actually, I remember reading that their first year was 2003 or 4.
Yeah. I mean, our first year.
There's been several generations of Misfits, and so the community has grown so that people still see each other and they're still in touch.
And we also have we have adjacent camps too. We have Camp Combobulated, which we lovingly call the Misfit Retirement Community, which is in our village, and it's populated with Misfits. Right. And we've had Across Platypus was another Misfit offshoot camp. So we'll occasionally migrate around and come back, and but we all kind of we have a once a Misfit always a Misfit kind of mentality.
Now, this is definitely the first camp show that we're doing that we don't have at least one founder in the room,
right? Because
it's been around for so long, generations come and go, and that's the idea, is that you establish a thing and it grows, it waters itself.
Yeah.
So you named off some of the founders. Are are any of the founders still active in like day-to-day, or have they gone to like what you were saying, like the Misfit retirement?
Yeah. So a lot of them have split off and done different camps at this point. So the regime that's in place, so sounds very military. We're not better. So the leadership crew that's in place now is all pretty much new people, and I think that's something that naturally has to happen with theme camps as well. It's a lot to do for no money, it's a lot of time and energy and effort, and
this is why I said we should start.
Naturally, there has to be some turnover just to give people a break.
Right.
This is why I'm saying we should start charging for drinks at our bar on the playa. Then we can make our money back from all the time we spent.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But it's also one of the things where we build from scratch every year to misfit the theme every year, and so that's super labor intensive.
Right,
the reason people don't do that.
Yeah.
Like if you
people
go
bring
to
the same thing each year.
Yeah, like
maybe we're missing something.
if you go to Opulent Temple or Disorient or any other camp that's been around for a long time, there might be some new visual elements, but generally the setup remains the same, just for ease of building, and because biting off more than you can chew is part of what it means to be a misfit. Every single year we go back to the drawing board and build something brand new from scratch. The first year that I was with the camp was with the Misfits was 2010. The theme for the playa that year was Metropolis, and so the Misfits built a 4-story hotel out of scaffolding with an operational elevator inside it.
It was called the Waldorf Misstory.
Yeah, and we got a couple of our campmates to dress up as bellhops, and they would take people up in the elevator up to the honeymoon suite to check out the view.
It was kind of a contested addition to the camp too, because there was concerns about safety, from what I understand.
That's
too.
Okay. That's third.
And there's natural schisms and stuff. So there was a lot of concern about the safety. It ran on 2 chain motors. But John was really gunning for it, and he ended up getting his way, and it became kind of a pretty remarkable thing.
Yeah. There's a video floating on YouTube of this, but for a lot of people who are in wheelchairs on the playa, they rarely get to see the city from up high, just because everything there is ladders and stairs and what have you. So when word got out amongst that community that, hey, you hear the Misfits have an elevator in their camp.
You can go get high at the Misfits camp.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's not news. Once word got out, a lot of people in wheelchairs came over to the camp, and I remember seeing this YouTube video of John Padone taking somebody up for their first time seeing the playa from up high in a wheelchair in the elevator, and you could well, by the way, John was an incredibly stoic dude. He definitely played it close to the vest, but I remember in this video you could see tears in his eyes, and it was one of those things where you can see why it was so worth it for him to have fought that battle and gone through all the work of installing a stolen freight elevator in the middle of the desert.
Amazing. So in addition to masochism, what would you say is another a common thread that has survived from the founding of the Misfits to what attracts people to joining the camp now? What is the thing, do you think, that stands out about being a mystical misfit in comparison to other camps? Is there a theme? Because every year it's different.
Right. I don't think there's a theme. I think it has to do with the individual. There's a certain ilk of person that's a misfit. And we are very much like a band of misfits. We all come from kind of different professions. There's a lot of us that are in the production industry, which of course is helpful when you're building stuff in the desert.
Film production industry.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so LA to just assume that people know what it is.
Oh, God. I've officially been retold. But we have so many different random breaths of knowledge amongst us. And my dad actually commented that every time I had a problem when I was moving out here, there was a misfit who had knowledge of it. There's a misfit for everything. And I think that's really kind of what we look for. It's the person who just has kind of a can-do attitude and doesn't worry about what their specific limitation is. If you're afraid of heights and you don't want to climb scaffolding, what are you good at? Like, what is your passion? We'll figure out a way to like insert you and make you work. But it's just but there's an expectation of you show up for each other. And at the end of the day, the greater good is more important than whatever hangover you have that morning.
It's definitely the joie de vivre, you know, because I think it, they say about Burning Man in general, you come for the art and you stay for the people. And I think that's very much it with Misfits, because everybody is really cool. And somehow we managed to attract or retain a bunch of people who, you know, have a way of going about things that is, doesn't cause problems and that is good for the community generally.
Yeah, the like to me, like the Misfits are actually sort of like a microcosm of what I like about the greater burner community in general. Like when people who've never been ask me what it's like out there, I say, imagine that the world ended and only 60,000 really freaky, creative, compassionate badasses survived, and they built a city where you can basically do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anybody. And that sort of like that description, these sort of freaky, creative, compassionate badasses, that's to me what the Misfits are.
Yeah, because I think I have spoken with other camps where they do have like something that's maybe not like a point blank written mission statement, but it's like it is a very clear vision that they're able to communicate verbally about what the idea is behind their camp. Yeah. And I wonder, it's always a question that I ask, is I wonder, like, was there an idea of that in the beginning of Misfits, and has that over time evolved into the culture that just simply remains?
I know last year
consciousness?
We tried to really boil it down to an essence. I was talking about that with several other people, and we really didn't get that. Because it's very diverse. To Jessica's point, you know, talking about that it became a slogan. There's a misfit.
We have stickers that say there's a misfit.
Because it's so diverse in terms of...
Quick, does anybody know an expert in inline speed skating?
Don't think it hasn't come up. But because it's really a wide group of people. But I think I'd have to say it was kind of a perverse love of hard work is something that we
that's a great description.
Well, and we
masochism.
We refer to each other the greater misfit, because there's a greater misfit community. Even people who aren't currently active in the camp, even people who've left the camp are still very supportive. Like they'll even go so far as to help out at our fundraisers and stuff, even though they're not associated with the camp anymore. But I think it's we call each other our family. You know, they're your chosen family. These friends are your chosen family, and
you did say family.
Family, yeah. So we call each other family.
Yeah, call it we say we won the friend lottery.
Yeah. And it's that support system of that we are there for each other in a lot of ways, like family are. And I think that's something that was really locked in when John passed away, was the way we all had to be there for one another, and it's a support system. And I think that is the magic of Burning Man and building stuff out there, is standing shoulder to shoulder with people, and you're going to get thrown curveballs. You're going to get a dust storm with 80-mile-per-hour wind, or you're going to get rain, and you're going to have to figure out how to problem solve in a super punishing environment and how to do it while still wanting to talk to everybody else at the end of the week. You know, and that's something that I love about the Misfits. I'm not saying we're perfect. People, you know, we blow up. I've done it. I've lost my cool. But that in very short order, you'll see that person come back around and say, I'm really sorry. Yeah. I'm fried. I'm super tired. And then we move on. But it's that care for the community and that thing that knits us all together that I think has preserved the spirit for so long. And I think that's always what it's been about. Because even the camps that offshoot still have that kind of glue running through them as well.
Do you remember your first Playa Meltdown?
My first Playa Meltdown? I don't know if I do. Oh, I don't know. Your first year is like always such just like a blur of wonderment. But I've definitely had some good ones. I think last year was a real, or not last year, 2015 was a super rough year for me. And
is that the super dusty year?
I don't know. I don't know if
Already
it was a
blurring
super
together.
dusty year, but
Yeah, that's super dusty.
Yeah, that's super dusty.
I had just gone through a breakup. I'd had like a really rough burn, and I had to like play shows with my ex because we were in a band together. And I hiked out to the temple one sunrise to like just rid myself of the bad vibes.
She burned his accordion.
I know, but I tied it to the temple. So I sat at the temple and I was like, I'm doing the right thing and doing this cathartic thing and writing. And then as soon as I had like let go of everything, this is, the magic and mayhem of Burning Man, I stood up and promptly twisted my ankle the morning of burn night, like really badly. And so I was stuck in camp on crutches for the rest of the burn. And I think I don't think I did melt down at that moment, though. I actually, like, walked back to camp from the temple on a twisted ankle, which was not my brightest moment. But,
Do you remember your first one? Yeah. Because you've been going since 19 now. I feel like you most maybe strike me as a person who hasn't had one.
Oh, I've had plenty.
You face it well.
Well, here's the thing is that every year I usually hit some kind of a wall, especially when I'm part of the build crew where you show up a week early to build the camp. Sometime around, like, I don't know, just like the middle of breakdown day on the last Sunday of it, I hit this wall where, like,
how fitting, breakdown day.
Yeah, where I'm just done. Like,
you're reading it in the calendar wrong.
Yeah, all these things that used to bring me happiness suddenly no longer bring me happiness. So it's like, you know what? No, I do not want another Takane. I don't want to see another pair of tits. I don't want your fucking dance music. I don't want your goddamn art car coming through. I want water in a glass with some ice. So like I'll just hit this wall, and that's how I know it's time to go home.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's I've sort of built that into my expectations of the experience of like, okay, I sooner or later I am gonna realize that it's time to pack up.
Yeah. Actually, I just remembered we had a full on camp simultaneous meltdown. Our shade structure that we have over our tents is a giant wedding tent. It's one of those big metal pole structures, and they're large. Like sometimes we get them like 80 by 20 or something. They're very large, and you have to essentially build the roof first and then skin it. And once you put the covering on, it gets very, very, very heavy. And there was a particular year, I think it may have been 2014 or 13, we hadn't quite figured out, since John passed, the correct way to do
Assemble
this.
the wedding tent.
And so you have like misfits lined along the perimeter of this tent trying to lift it, and someone screaming at a megaphone, and everybody's trying to be in charge. And then we tried to lift it, and like 3 people simultaneously threw out their back.
Oh, yep.
And that was like a simultaneous camp meltdown. And everybody had to just walk away for a second.
It's hard to top that one.
Yeah.
Well, I had a moment, I think it was my second year, after the wonderment of the first year, as you mentioned. And then the second year, I remember having one of our happy hour parties, and this time I had come really prepared, like more than the first year. So I had with the unicorns that came over and was doing the art car that they pull up to our parties, supply the music, we supply the venue. It's an awesome thing. I had my unicorn horn, I had my tutu, I had my squirt gun. I was up there on the second floor dancing away, and I realized I am so bored. Come on, I've been partying in this tutu for I don't even know how long now. Jesus Christ. It was like the same thing. It's like another pair of tits, just no. Right? And so I said, if you're bored at Burning Man, that is nobody's fault but your own. So I got down off of the scaffolding and I got on my bike and I went out to go find something that was what I wanted to do at that moment.
That's a beautiful way to handle that.
Yeah. We tend to keep that way of thinking during build week too. Occasionally, like, people will just get burnt out during build, and they'll be like, "I just need to go on a bike ride." You're like, "Go, just go now." Like, you go do you for a while.
Yeah, that does concern me sometimes. That like the amount of insanity that we get to experience in short periods of time have really I don't know what the word is, numbed us a little bit to how crazy something can get.
Yeah.
Desensitization.
Like this thing is already not. I need more alcohol. I remember this party actually that I'd gone to with Mark and Lana here in LA, and it was a long nutty thing. Like at one point, it was super weird, all kinds of weird shit happening. I think at the end of the night, we were finally ready to leave. And Mark comes back and says, like, hold on a second. There's a girl here that is going to get naked and she's going to set herself on fire. And then another girl is going to go down on her. And then the one that's on fire is going to read a poem. So this is like 3 a.m. Lana's first response is like, yeah, I already saw that bird. No, the best part was that though we were like, so we're waiting for it, and the girl is having like a full-on artist meltdown because she can't remember the poem.
Nobody's there for the poem.
It definitely desensitizes you after a while. I remember the year that we built the bomb. We had the steampunk octopus showed up at our camp, and we have a flamethrower on top of our camp, and so we were shooting off fire with the steampunk octopus, El Pupo Mecanico, and Ryan came up and was like, "Doesn't that arc play music?" I was like, "It shoots fire out of its 8 individually moving legs that are made out of metal and hand welded, and you want to know if it plays music." Like, get out of here.
I won't be satisfied until it plays music and makes me a sandwich and tells me it loves me.
What, no coffee?
Yeah. Get that fucking shit out of here.
Would you guys happen to know how many people were in the founding class of the Misfits?
It was
how
pretty
big was the camp?
small. I think the initial ones, like early Misfits, like the first year they had a sign. I think maybe Ricky was the name of the guy who came up with the name initially. And it was literally just, I think, a hand-painted fabric sign said Mystical Misfits, and I think it was like 10 or less people. It was very small.
The main structure was a one of those sort of like garage shade things.
Oh yeah, the pop-ups.
Yeah. So you could fit the entire camp in and around that thing, and
like a Costco,
like a carport.
Yeah, exactly. So like that's sort of like what the original camp was, or the centerpiece of the original camp, just that carport that eventually became the kitchen to a much bigger camp, and then eventually that became nothing because that was too small of a kitchen. So over the years it went from 10 people to, I think at its max one year we had 120.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was that was a big year.
Yeah.
120 what year was that?
Is that 2012?
Yeah.
It sounds about right.
Yeah, well, maybe 12. I don't know.
I do know that
it's definitely
2012.
115 the last couple of years.
Yeah, because we weren't as good at managing our budget that year. We hadn't yet locked that down. So I think we were pretty over budget, and I think we ended up adding a bunch of people for Camp 2s at the last minute just to get ourselves out of their head.
Yeah, like when a musician comes to town and there's 20 opening artists that are selling tickets. Oh God, when am I going to see this headliner? Ian, in the year 2010 was your first year
with the Misfits.
Yeah. How big was it then? You know,
it was probably I want to say 80 people that year.
Tell me about the structure that year. So at that point, like, how many camp leads did you guys have that year, for example?
Well, I mean, John Padone was still alive at that time, and so he was running the show along with our friend Matt, who was kind of like the camp mayor. He was sort of like the social director, and a couple of other OG folks that were, as OG as that generation got.
Right. And so, like, what does that entail? So the lead, so John was sort of in charge of building the camp and bringing it together, and then Matt was in charge of
Matt would he would organize fundraising for it. He would be the one to deal with emails and communication, getting everybody on the same page. When we had our when I first joined the camp and had my first, Virgins meeting with them, he was the one hosting it.
And they had people too. Like we tend to break things down into a lot of different departments. So like I think Noel and Terry maybe doing art and decor. So we have different people kind of in charge of different areas. Right. I don't know if that was the case as much.
Oh yeah, that was completely the case. Yeah. And during those first 2 years when we still had John. It was interesting seeing the transformation of things. Like that first year we built that the Waldorf Astoria, the hotel. The year following that, the theme was rites of passage. So we held a big meeting of everybody who was there the year before to vote on ideas for what we should make the camp. And so we were talking about, like, okay, what's rites of passage? It's high school, bar mitzvah, and as a joke, I yelled out, moving back in with your parents. And the whole camp, like, seized on that. They're like, yeah, let's build our parents' house. So we built this 2-story structure, sticking up out of the ply where it just looks like a suburban home.
Yeah, it looked like a suburban home, like, rose out of the ground.
Yeah.
Because you had to go up the stairs to go in the front door, and then the party was in the basement. So there were internal stairs inside the house as well.
Yeah, I'll never forget this. Like, so the whole shtick behind the house is that our parents were gone on vacation, and we were partying in the house. And so occasionally during one of our, like, daytime happy hours, we would rig this phone ringing sound to come through the sound system. And Jessica and some other misfits would be like, guys, might be mom and dad, shut up, everybody be quiet. So everybody would like, go quiet, and then an answering machine would pick up. And a pre-recorded message that you and some of the other...
So me and a few other misfits met in our friend John March's recording studio, and we recorded all of these pre-baked messages. And we sat for the whole day and came up with the storyline of what was going to happen. So earlier in the week, it was kind of the mom checking in. I'd be like, hey, sweetheart, so I just want to make sure you saw the meatloaf I left you in the fridge. The neighbor's number is on the door if you have any questions. But progressively throughout the week, the messages got weirder and weirder because the parents were on vacation and they'd taken the younger sister and the brother had stayed home. And the mom is like hitting on the bartender. The dad got abducted by aliens. There's like a woman from the National Alien Detection Squad calling, looking for the father. So they got progressively wackier if you stay tuned for the whole thing. Yeah. So we had like this weird interactive aspect to it.
This was, where were you guys? What was your address that year? Do you know?
We've been at 430 and B.
You're always at 430 and B?
As far as I can remember, yeah.
Yeah, we had one year we were at 430 and C, but then we were back to 430.
And then arguably,
that was too close to the border.
Last year we were kind of 430 and C, but we were basically 430 B.
Yeah.
And so, like, the basement part of it. So, how did you walk in through the front door of the house?
Okay. So, like, you walk along the playa and you see a 2-story house with some stairs outside it. Right. So you walk up the stairs in what is supposed to be the yard, where we laid out astroturf.
There's like a white picket
fence. And so this was above.
One story up. What's below you is a bunch of. We designed the area coming up from the playa to look kind of like...
It was underground.
Yeah, there's like dinosaur bones and stuff in there.
We had little like tunnels with mice. and you gave a bunch of attention deficit people like free artistic reign, like what would be under their house.
Yeah. So there's totally a Stargate under the house.
Yeah, there's a Stargate under the house. There's a tunnel that the mice are following, and there's an underground man that they're all like praying to. And then that was one of my first build days too, where I was drawing skeleton, and I started drawing a giant rat skeleton, and then I just put a stormtrooper helmet on it for no particular reason. So that was also under their house.
Oh yeah, we installed as a way of getting rid of our gray water, we installed a sprinkler system in our yard, which is 1 story up from the ground. So occasionally, like, we just turn on the sprinkler system and just spray whoever was walking past. So then you'd come through the living room where we set up like a couch with some mannequins watching TV. That might not fly anymore
with today's consent heavy.
I
did not consent to getting wet.
Especially not with that water, I assure you. And then you come down another set of stairs into the basement where we put up like movie posters that we had designed. Like we made a fake Ghostbusters poster that became shirt cockers. Yeah. So
the ghost on Ghostbusters had like a little wang.
How many people could fit into the basement?
Probably
like 50 people.
Yeah. I'll never forget, there was a dude who came down there one evening and must have forgotten that he had walked upstairs and then down some more, because he's looking around the basement with his pupils the size of dinner plates, and he's like, "This is amazing. How did you guys build a basement in your camp?" And I was about to say, like, "Oh, well, actually, we're still on the ground." I'm like, "Oh, no, wait, no, let's fuck with this dude." So, like, well, actually, we got special permission from the Borg to bring in a backhoe, and we dug out 10 feet of playa. So we're actually about 10 feet below the surface of the playa right now. He's like, no way.
Yeah. That's another important factor of being a misfit is being an expert playa troll. We do like to troll people. We built Black Rock City Hall one year, and Kim's husband Phil actually made those parking tickets this year.
Yeah, we made parking tickets so that that looked just like a parking ticket. It had the ticket number at
Violation
the top.
number,
It was Black Rock City Hall, and it said what your violation was. So it would be things like doing it wrong,
zigging where zagging was indicated.
Yeah, unclear on the concept.
Unlicensed imaginary friend was one of my favorites.
Too furry.
Yeah. But there was an entire day I dressed up like a police officer, and I had gotten a big 2x4 and I painted it red and we wrote fire lane on it, and I would just run up next to art cars and drop it and then write them tickets for parking in a fire lane. But at the bottom of the ticket, Kim and Phil had put summons to appear, and they had all of our happy hours listed. So we had made people appear in court for their crimes.
I mean, it sounds like the running theme is play.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's accurate.
Yeah, and so a lot of them, there's like a healthy dose of like snark as well. Like last year we had one of my favorite happy hours was the Make Burning Man Great Again happy hour. It was fantastic, and we had Make Burning Man Great Again hats. We were like, we're gonna build a bigger fence, and we're gonna get BLM to pay for it. Just like the worst things. But we were giving away the hats, but in order to get a hat, you had to do a whiskey slap, which is an important misfit rite of passage. We use it for many things, to like adjust your attitude, to wake yourself up in the morning. But essentially, you take a slug of whiskey from the bottle, and then another misfit slaps you across the face.
Oh, I've had that.
Yeah. So to get that Make Burning Man Great Again hat, you had to have a whiskey slap. You had to then chug Coors Light and stick your head in a cooler full of ice water for 10 seconds, and then you got the hat. Yeah. So yes,
teasing.
Play in a twisted way.
Here's the funny thing. I had that, but I don't remember if it was your kid.
I doubt we're the first people to think of the whiskey slap. Yeah. We just got really excited about it. So.
I love it. So is there sort of a official, unofficial governing body of the Misfits?
I mean, it's constantly shifting. Like every few years, there's kind of a changing of the guard where new leadership comes in, and the people that want to take their break, or they go to other camps or whatever.
How does the leadership come in? It's basically volunteers, or is there a voting process?
It's pretty much volunteer.
It's volunteer, and because it is kind of really labor intensive, because we do build from the ground up every year. It means that really people don't want to do this like a bunch of years in a row and be in charge of it, because it is really a full-time job. It's super labor for the summer. Yeah.
So usually you only have one person crazy enough to want to do it.
Well, I did it a few years.
There's like different roles. It's really a shared leadership thing. Okay, so after speed skating, I went and did a doctorate in organizational psychology.
Of course, that's the normal trajectory.
Like everybody, But so I actually was kind of studying to write a paper on the Misfits and the way they transitioned from having one charismatic leader to a very shared situation that does not have like one person who dictates what's going on.
Right. Like the Islamic Republic of Iran. Exactly what happened.
Right. Like the closest thing we ever had to somebody who wanted to do all that crazy hard work every year after year, was Padone. Although I do have a theory that he might not actually be dead. He's just hiding because he didn't want to come back and build.
It'd be a reasonable thought. I would probably not have a problem with that.
But no, it's a total, a word I picked up in this camp is duocracy. Mm-hmm. It's a complete duocracy. Like, if you want to be in charge of a specific department, then you work your ass off that year on whatever that is. And then next year you're in charge of that.
Yeah. And there's definitely people that we thought, like, hey, that person might be good for that will like nudge a little bit and be like, hey, we were thinking about maybe you'd want to do design or something this year. Yeah. So yeah, we definitely do that, but we try to give people breaks when they need it, because it's a quick way to burn out, and that's the one we'd like to preserve. That one thing I love about the Misfits is that we can all love each other again at the end of the week after dealing with all this craziness.
My first a day with the Misfits when I just found the camp on the spreadsheet listed on like LA camps that you could possibly join, and Phil and I came to go see what they were about, and I met Jessica, and she assigned me to go work on the bar with Susanna, who's kind of also another OG Misfit. And Susanna, she's about 4'11", 66 or so years old, and I don't know how else to describe Susanna.
Little ball of fire.
Yeah.
Exactly. Gives like the strongest
to be
hugs.
experienced.
Yeah, Susanna is to be experienced.
You don't meet Susanna, you experience Susanna.
Very true.
And so unlike, I was watching all
human
these people.
psychedelic.
So I was watching all these people painting and doing all this like fabulous art stuff around me, and I'm like, I don't really have any skills in this regard. I'm like spreadsheet girl, So I was really nervous about this, and so Susanna was like, "Here, take paintbrush, paint the bar." And I'm like, "But Susanna, how do I paint?" And she's like, "Look, it's gonna burn in a week."
Yeah, we use that so many times.
Okay, and I got in there and painted the bar, and so I've used that many times over. That
It's gonna burn in a week.
That is, kind of our approach to how the duocracy works. Yeah, you want to make the thing great. Go do it. Don't stress too much because it's gonna burn in a week.
Yeah, I'll never forget the year when we were doing the bomb theme, and that was the day we were spray painting the covering of the bomb. So we wanted it to look like it had been crashed in the middle of the desert for a while, so people had come by and graffitied it. And this guy Tony, who was new to our camp, showed up that day, and he wanted a job. And I was like, "Well, this is what we're doing. We're like tagging the outside of this bomb." And he kind of hummed and hawed and said, "I'm not really much of an artist." And then after about 30 seconds, he goes, because he has a brilliant mind for physics, he said, "Well, I could tag it with like nuclear physics equations with like the initials of the physicist who authored the equation." And I said, "Have all the spray paint." And that year, I was sitting on the bar, and I remember seeing this older guy come up and walk by the camp and look at the camp and look at the bomb and then squint a little harder. And I just said, "Do you work in physics?" And he said, "Yeah." And he's like, "This is hilarious." Nothing else. That one physics guy got it.
Oh, that's like the absolute best joke on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, you're the only one that gets it.
Totally.
You're like, on one hand, you feel super lonely, but on the other hand, you feel so superior.
We like to play to like, a very small, refined taste of niche.
Zero in.
Yeah, like one of the things I love about this group is the way that they will tailor projects or pranks or specific things like that to specific individuals within the camp. A couple years back, we held a big virgin meet and greet at my house, and in my dining room there's a giant chalk wall where we had everybody write their intentions for that year, like. And some people were saying, like...
Lose virginity.
Yeah. So you read mine. And most people are, writing, about wanting to stretch their boundaries and, have a transformative experience. And then this one girl just wrote, "I want to learn everything there is to learn about snails." So before I left for the playa, I went on Wikipedia and printed out their entire page of snails, just like the whole thing onto some printer paper, and took it with me to the playa, and then went outside her tent one morning with a megaphone and just started reading the entire Wikipedia page about snails. And she actually came out of the tent and sat in her chair and listened, and it was great.
It's amazing.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Is there something about snails that is the most fascinating thing that has stood out in your mind?
It's amazing I remember even doing that, much less anything in the...
All right, fair enough. Kim, what other camps did you guys prospect? Or actually, you know what? You don't have to list off them. How many other camps did you guys look at in LA?
We went first to the Misfits, and then I remember, I think even on our way to the next one, I think I called Jessica and said, "I think we're a fit with the Misfits. Does that make us a misfit fit?" I said,
You're a fit.
Yeah. But we checked out a couple more, and I found it... this is why I don't want to name them, but I found it a little bit appalling. I was like, no, I am not joining that camp. Yeah. But that was also because I've had such a great experience, and this was so much what I wanted to be with a group of people and to learn this and to feel welcomed and not to feel like I was just, I'd been to camps where I felt like they were trying to recreate LA, but with themselves at the center this time, or it was just like not good dynamics that I thought that people were making. And I always thought Misfits had made great dynamics.
Yeah, LA, we talked about this a little bit when I interviewed Athena, who's long-term regional contacts for LA. That thing that you're describing definitely exists in LA. It seems like more than other cities that people go to bring up. Right. They really just want to recreate all the same. Like there's like the LA thing. What is it? Fashion burner is like a phrase that exists out here that like a lot of other cities have never heard of before. So it's kind of interesting. Do you remember what specific? I mean, like so obviously like you found that it was a fit, but do you remember what about Misfits specifically popped out the most in your mind that was different? Did it feel like they're letting go? Did it feel like it was the play?
Like everybody was really trying together to figure this thing out. You know, I mean, I think I sat in like we had the painting thing, and that was actually awesome because I went and painted a thing, and I felt just proud. Like, look, that's my little corner. and then there was some kind of meeting, and you know, I didn't really know what was going on, so I couldn't contribute to this meeting. But just watching everybody interact was really what did it for me. Was what really made me say, this looks like a group of people that's worth getting to know. And that's one of the things that I've really enjoyed over the course of these however many years it has been, which is because I know I'm going to see all these people in this family again, that I can take, there's no pressure for getting to know people. Mm-hmm. You know, like a lot of times you get that thing of like, I better go make a good impression now because now that they're going to form that of me. And it's like, no, you can get to know people over a period of years in a really organic way that is not always how it goes in the rest of the world.
Right. Would you, for listeners, for example, that might be listening to this show, trying to decide which camp to join, what sort of advice would you have for them? Like the kinds of things to watch for what would be a fit for them or not? Like you're describing, like they're trying to recreate LA in the desert. I understand what that means, but like I wonder, like how do you describe something like that to somebody who has no idea what that means from a different town or a different city?
Oh yeah.
Actually, I've experienced something similar. I had been with a couple other theme camps in previous years, and one of the things that I noticed that really made me appreciate the Misfits and threw into really sharp relief how much I didn't fit in at some of the other places I was there was a tremendous sense of hierarchy, and there were like. It's something where like, you know, if you show up for build week and you're the new guy, you never forget that for a second. Nobody lets you forget that for a second. And it feels kind of like a combination between like a shitty film industry party where everyone is jockeying for dominance, combined with like, I don't know, being the fat kid at summer camp, which is like just the two sensations you never want to have on the playa
combined.
That
sounds like fucking torture.
That's why it was such a breath of fresh air finding this group. But
it felt fluid.
I'd say the best advice I would have for someone if you're thinking about joining a Burning Man camp, think about how you feel the morning after a really bad hangover, or the morning after something really emotionally traumatic happened to you. Who are the people you're going to be okay with seeing when you walk out of your bedroom door into your living room? Who are the people that are going to be able to handle you and support you when you're feeling that way? That's your camp. Because, you know, you can come into rough patches, but if at the end of the day, these are the people that are going to hold your hand through the good times and the bad, then those are your people. And it's a feeling. When you find your tribe, like humans are tribal creatures. Like we thrive in a community, and there's a feeling that you get when you're home. And it's the feeling that's what is so contagious about Burning Man, is that feeling of acceptance and the feeling of letting a lot of that stuff that you see here in LA drop away and finding that authenticity. That's really for me what I think is the crux of the magic out there.
No, that's an excellent description. Because you're out there and you're gonna be naked and vulnerable
in so many ways.
Not just literally, but I mean,
but also literally.
Yeah, but also literally. Yeah, and that's true. And at some point, you're gonna have your meltdown. There's all these things that you're terrified and embarrassed to show the world, and it's something about the playa forces you to bubble all that to the surface.
There's nowhere to hide from yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And nothing really speaks more to the family aspect of the Misfits is that we very frequently are a family camp. Like we have in the past few years, more and more have become parent camp. Like a lot of our parents have come to the playa.
Yeah, we've had Misfits bring their parents, bring their grandparents. We've had siblings.
Yeah, my brother-in-law comes.
Yeah, my parents had their first year this past year. Yeah, they came from Kentucky to Burning Man.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they camp with you guys?
They did.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was awesome. It was really, really great. It was actually one of my best moments, and I definitely feel like we all got so much closer. They said that they feel closer to one another after it. But I also prepared them very well. That's another thing that Misfits, I think, are really great about, and the reason why we have so much success with our virgins and why they often will stick around is because we have kind of a big brother, big sister program where if a new person is coming in, they have to have a Misfit sponsor. And so that Misfit sponsor is essentially responsible for this virgin. If they are unprepared or they're behaving in a way that's upsetting other members of the camp, you're responsible for checking them. Yeah. And because of that, you have this person who's making sure you have everything packed that you need. And it was really funny. There was actually one evening that my boyfriend and I were out with my parents. We had gone to see the Playa Pop Symphony Orchestra play. And on our way back, got caught in a really, really bad dust storm. So much so that we had to just seek shelter at the temple. We couldn't tell which direction the city was in. And my boyfriend, unfortunately, had just kind of brought a scarf. Because he's like, oh, we're just going on, coming right back. Like, amateur rookie mistake. And my mom's
You're never just coming right back.
My mom just flips over her little camelback. She's like, do you want one? I have an extra. I'm like, yeah, that's my virgins. I trained them so well. But they did great.
You prep them to not just have enough for themselves, but enough to share. And that's where...
Right.
That's where shit really gets good.
Yeah. But they did great. They did awesome. My dad's an engineer, so he was just loving all the different structures. They saw a lot of art. And my mom is very much an empath and really dug the community. So it's really fun. It's fun to hear them talk about it. They didn't necessarily tell their friends and family that they were going ahead of time. And the reasoning for that was I don't want anyone's feeling about me going to color my experience of the event. If people are going to have a negative reaction, I don't want to carry that with me into this experience. I'll tell them after I go, which they did. And my dad said he had a client that he had a meeting with when he came back, and she's like, oh, where'd you go on vacation? And my dad goes, well, I went to Burning Man. And the client's like, what's that? And her 22-year-old intern was like, oh my God, I am so jealous. And my dad's like, that's so cool. That's awesome. But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of community. It's the camp you're okay with bringing your parent to.
Yeah. As long as your parent can hang.
As long as your parent can hang. And they're cool.
What do you think is your longest lasting tradition?
Narsforten. Yeah, hands down.
So we have this
that word you just said.
Narsforten.
Okay.
Yeah. So Dimples, one of the people one of the OG people that I mentioned, I don't know the exact lore of it, but I know that she came up with this word Narsforten, and what it ended up becoming was the way we find each other on Playa. Because if you ever tried to play Marco Polo on the Playa, it doesn't really work. If you yell Marco, you hear Polo from 80 different directions. Yeah. So if you're out on Playa and you lose sight of the pack,
name, everybody starts yelling out that name.
Yeah. So we yell Narsforten, and it's so effective. It's remarkable. We use it at festivals. I use it anywhere. There are Misfits. It's how we find each other in a crowd.
Yeah, you yell out Narsforten, and somebody some other Misfit will call it back. It's our camp homing beacon. Yeah. And it's the whole thing is based on this completely made up bit of lore about a burner named Lars Narsforten who showed up to Burning Man too early before the city was built and wandered the city until he died of thirst trying to find it.
Out by the trash cans.
You can still hear his ghost wandering around out there if you listen carefully.
Yeah. It's why actual Misfit history is kind of irrelevant, because we've kind of just made up this weird Misfit lore. And I think one year somebody made voting buttons that say "Vote for Lars."
Yeah,
Lars Narsforten just keeps
now that button makes sense. I've seen that. I kept thinking about Lars Bontier, but right.
Lars Narsforten. So we just have a treasure trove of weird stories about things that happened to Lars, and it just keeps growing. I think at one point we tried to make a Wikipedia page or something.
What are the events that happen at Mystical Misfits every year? I know there's a couple of happy hours that are pretty big.
Yeah, there's happy hours. Our main thing is we're like a daytime dance bar. each afternoon on the playa from the day the gates open, we have a specific theme for each happy hour that we do, and a specific misfit in charge of that. So like whatever crazy party that you've been wanting to throw, you can throw it out there. Like the year of, I guess this would have been 2012, I had been keeping up with some other camps, art projects, just on social media, seeing what they're building. And I discovered that this camp down in Texas was building this thing called the SS Titty Hawk.
Titty Hawk?
Yeah, it's where they took a school bus and made it into an aircraft carrier. So I contacted them and said, hey, can you bring the Titty Hawk to the Misfits? And they're like, yeah. What's the? I don't think you're alone.
Like Titty Caca.
Yeah. So for the opening party that day, we threw this thing called Fleet Week, where everybody dressed up like sailors, and this gigantic aircraft carrier rolled up in front of the camp, and we just covered it in semen. Yeah. So, and the entire point of the party was me being able to make that joke.
Yeah.
We mainly do daytime events. We've started to do some stuff in the night as more DJs have joined the camp.
Yeah. It's always felt a little spring breaky to me when I go there. I like that.
And like, when we're in the off season, I'm the one who organizes the fundraisers for the camp, and it's funny you bring that up because one of the fundraiser parties was called Spring Break in the Post-Apocalypse. Yeah. And when we came up with that name, somebody was like, isn't that just Burning Man?
Fair enough. What do you guys do burn night?
It depends on the burner.
Yeah, it depends. We always have a group of people who like to stay at camp because you can kind of climb the scaffolding and watch from up high. We do have people, myself included, who've been in Fire Conclave before. So a lot of times we'll get a group out to watch wherever a misfit is in Fire Conclave. And a few of our misfits have built these amazing beacons, these totems that all light up at night. So either that or Narsforten, and we usually find one another. But the thing that often happens is after the man falls, everybody does come back to camp and regroups and goes back out. Or we stay home and throw another party.
Yeah, the Crow's Nest is a really fun place to watch, though.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember this past year, I had come looking for you guys. I'd come looking for you guys in 2015, and it was like I kept trying to find Mark and Lana, like some of my friends out there, Darian. I want to see everybody, and just could not catch up with anybody burn night. It just wasn't happening, and I know that I think it might have actually been you that told me to come back after.
Well, it probably was because I was probably there on crutches.
Yeah. Yes, I do remember you were on crutches. You said they'll come back after but then like this year, I remember after all the debacle that year, looking for everybody. This year, I camped with Perky Parts, and we go out there and we sit down like somewhere behind the man, waiting to watch the burn. And I look to my left, and there's this totem. I'm like, that looks familiar. I'm like, what camp are you guys? They're like, Mystical Misfits. I'm like,
of course.
Fucking right next to me.
That's what the other thing we do when you do find the person you're looking for, we like to scream, winning at finding each other. We're so good at this game.
All right, I'm going to do that. Yeah. And if somebody stares at me confused, I'm going to blame you.
Absolutely. You're welcome to blame all weird, awkward behavior on the Misfits.
Fair enough.
We'll take it.
What do you guys have planned for this coming year?
Right now, we're still figuring out what the theme for the camp is going to be.
Yeah, because they just announced the theme not long ago.
What is the theme?
I can't remember. I'm a bad burner.
Dust and
I don't remember.
Dust and boobs. There it is.
God, I can't remember.
Guys, we're bad burners. What's the fucking theme?
I'm going to look at it.
I'm the host of the show.
Google knows.
But usually the way it's structured, what we tend to do is we tend to have a meeting of the leaders, the people who are very interested in, once again, taking on leadership roles that year. And then that will spin out into a wider camp meeting. And then we tend to pretty democratically pick what our camp theme is. Last year, Kim ran point on a great meeting where we used their giant chalkboard and we put all the different ideas in and we kept refining it. And sometimes, like this past year, we blended different ideas together. So we kind of fall on it pretty democratically, and we try to think about the resources that we already have and if there's a different way that we can utilize them to a new theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
do you guys put a cap on the number of people that you can accept?
Oh, we try to. We tried to keep it around 100 for the past couple of years.
I think we tried to go down to 80 last year. I don't know if we did.
We did not. We got to about 97.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
We always end up adding a lot of people at the end of it. We always talk a big game about wanting to keep it small, but then we end up not keeping it.
We
small.
get excited.
Yeah. And also, some of the people who are leading teams this year are people who were last minute additions in previous years. Yeah. We're like, wait, we're broke. Fuck, get some more people in here, and then. Fast forward 2 years, and one of those randos that we found at the last minute is now in charge of stuff.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So we do have a habit of picking really good versions.
This year it's Radical Ritual.
That's what it is?
Radical Man.
So it's Burning Man.
It's Burning Man. It's always Burning Man. That's what we said about Caravan Series. We're like, so the team is Burning Man.
I swear to God, I think I don't know if this was like a joke or an urban myth or actuality, is that for 3 years in a row, it seemed like the themes were a little similar. Yeah. So they spent all this money on that tent structure thing that they wanted to keep using. Right. I just feel like the themes might have been designed around.
Well, I guess we could talk about the theme that we're doing for Boogaloo. Should we talk about that, or is that or is that a surprise?
Go ahead.
Exclusive.
It's an exclusive. So, if you want to come to the Boogaloo Mountain Jam, the Misfits will be hosting a after-hour stage, and I believe the theme it's a protest theme that they're going for.
Yeah, it's we are the anti-sleep and sobriety squad. We're doing our part, in the fight against both sobriety and sleep.
Those things are ruining America.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. The downfall of America.
So we've got that coming up, and later on in the summer, I'm putting together a daytime party for the camp where. Last year, in previous years, the same way that we do themed happy hours, we'll do themed fundraiser parties. One year we threw this thing called Impossible Proportions that was basically
I was there for that one.
Honey, I Shrunk the Burners. Yeah. It was we got we built a bunch of giant stuff.
Yeah, so there was, when you came in, there was a tunnel, so we bent PVC pipe and draped fabric over it, and the PVC humps were getting progressively smaller and smaller. So by the time you were getting into the party, you were hunched over, and there was a sign that said, "Prepare to get small." And when you came into the party, you had giant toadstools and daisies and a huge soccer ball.
Yeah, like a beach ball the size of a car, and so there's always a really cinematic or pop culture theme for it, and the most
8-bit last year.
Yeah. We threw a sort of a video game themed one last year called 8-bit, and this year we're throwing the sequel to that, 16-bit.
One day we'll have enough pixels.
Well, really, our day parties are so fun. I think that, I don't know if we've officially decided, but we always talk about just focusing on day parties for fundraisers, and so highly recommended. Mm-hmm.
I remember walking. This was one of my earlier experiences. I remember that I was like, "Yep, I'm not going anywhere. This is where I'm going to be forever." Because I was walking to the Honey, I Shrunk the Burners party, and some girl had parked right in the same street that I parked, and we started walking next to each other, and I just asked her, where are you coming from? She's like, "Oh, the vast nothingness of space." And then we proceed to have this conversation about, okay, so was there the trip was good, the UFO landed properly, and we have this 5-minute conversation about her trip on a UFO, and me telling my experience was this way. And
so you met my mom.
She was very hot. Yeah. We have this whole exchange, right? And then we get to the door, we go to the party, I don't see her again. I have no idea what her name is. There was a 5-minute conversation based on just improv.
Yeah.
If you're listening.
Yeah. This is a misconnection. There are misconnections. That actually speaks to something that's one of the ways I've tried to describe Burning Man to people who haven't gone is, I said, imagine that you're playing a really great game of improv with 60,000 other people. Because everybody's like, "Oh my God, do you want to go jump on that giant hot dog car?"
Yes.
Yeah. And talk about snails? Yeah. Let's do it. Yes,
wait, hold on. I got to get mustard in my bag. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, because it's that very beautiful childlike sense of play. And it feels so good because you're constantly running around having these adventures.
That's totally it. It's a big game of yes and.
Yeah.
That is a perfect way to describe it. I've recently found that like the best way that I can describe it is that you have so many people from different walks, like you guys were describing, different professions. Your doctor can be a burner. Your yoga instructor probably is a burner.
We do have a yoga instructor.
Of course, very
Doctors
important.
and
Lawyers.
Yeah. Got the whole thing. But the one thing is that everybody agrees on is that there is no age limit on play. You can be 80, you can be 20. But like you can be dancing next to each other. Like there's no time where like I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah.
That never stops.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like within this group, it's sooner or later you stop really thinking about age at all. Like I look at the Misfits and I just see my friends, whether or not they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or in Suzanne's case, I think she's turning 70 next year, right?
I've lost track, but
Yeah.
soon.
She has to, probably. It's okay.
God damn it! I'm trying to remember this funny comment she made on Facebook, and I forgot right now. I gotta look it up.
Susanna's one-liners are a thing
Oh, yeah.
of beauty and
She's
horror.
incredible.
Yeah, she doesn't have to twist the knife. It's true.
It's amazing.
It's wonderful. Well, guys, thank you so much for having this conversation. It was a lot of fun, and thank you for everything that you do at Burning Man. I, for one, have taken a huge advantage of it multiple times.
Yay.
As you should.
Yeah,
It's
you
a
guys-
labor of love and all
Yeah,
that.
that's amazing. You guys bring a lot of joy and a lot of hard work. The production level is always amazing, and so like really on behalf of burners everywhere, I want to thank you for everything you do and all the hard work you put in for us to enjoy. Thank you
Our
so much.
pleasure.
Thank you, Raj.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, new episodes are up on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. We are on multiple podcasting platforms such as Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and Spreaker, among many others. We are also on iHeart Radio now. If you want to listen to the show, we are not hard to find. The Burner Podcast movement is made possible due to the efforts of various contributing producers as well as our regular staff, which include our network music editor, Navjeet Sarna, who is also the producer of Burner Podcast Presents Alkaline. That's the other show that we do that's DJ mixes by amazing active artists in the Burner community. Producer Hip Hop Eddie Rangel, associate producer Tori Massey, contributing producer Super Suze out of the Bay Area, recording engineer Freckle, chief playa scientist and online editor Ramiro Martinez, special projects manager Paul McCarthy, network executive producer Meg King, and you, our dear listener. Our intermission music is by Duckman. Make sure to check out his music at duckmansd.bandcamp.com. The Burner Podcast theme song is America's Horseman No Name Remix, produced by Joman. Check out his music over at soundcloud.com/DJ Joman. So until next time, love and light and all that other crap. Good night.